A Fieldcraft Chronicles documentary guide. Imagine standing at the edge of a muddy scar carved across Belgium, stretching from the North Sea to the Swiss border. 440 miles of earth, transformed not by soldiers alone, but by the calloused hands of men who once dug beneath Manchester's streets, who knew the language of clay and water, who understood that survival underground required more than courage, it demanded craft. This is the untold story of the civilian engineers, the sewer men, the miners who became the unseen architects of the Great War's most defining feature. What they built wasn't just fortification. It was an underground civilization born from industrial know-how and desperate innovation, where the principles of Victorian engineering met the brutal reality of modern warfare. What separated a death trap from a defensible position wasn't the infantry's frantic spade work. It was the cold calculation of civil engineers who saw in mud and sandbags the same principles they'd applied to railway cuttings and harbour walls. When the German army fortified their positions in late 1914, they brought with them the methodical precision of a nation that had engineered the Kiel Canal. Their trenches weren't temporary shelters, but subterranean fortresses. 30 feet down into the chalk of the Somme or the clay of Flanders, they excavated Stollen, deep dugouts reinforced with timber props and concrete, equipped with multiple entrances, electric lighting powered by generators and bunks that could shelter entire platoons from the heaviest bombardment. In Flanders, the greatest enemy wasn't German artillery, it was water. The reclaimed marshland sat barely above sea level, its water table a constant threat that turned trenches into canals with every autumn rain. Engineers fought this battle with the same techniques that had drained England's fenlands centuries before. They designed complex systems of sumps, deep pits dug at intervals where water could collect and be pumped out manually, or in permanent positions with motorized pumps. Duckboards, those slatted wooden walkways, weren't comfort, they were survival infrastructure. Standing in water for days caused trench foot, a gangrenous condition that could necessitate amputation. The boards kept men's feet above the perpetual inch or two of water that even the best drainage couldn't eliminate. Communication trenches, the covered walkways connecting front lines to support positions, required careful grading to ensure water flowed away from fighting positions. Engineers surveyed with levels and transits, calculating gradients that would shed water without creating erosion channels. Standing today in the preserved trenches at Vimy Ridge, or walking the peaceful fields of Passchendaele, it's difficult to imagine the scale of human engineering that once scarred this landscape. The civilian experts who brought their peacetime skills to wartime necessity created something unprecedented. A 400-mile city beneath the earth, home to millions, where survival depended on the marriage of ancient fieldcraft and modern industry. The clay kickers who worked in silence, the engineers who calculated loads and drainage, the pioneers who laid duckboards and strung wire. They were practicing a form of survival craft under the most extreme conditions imaginable. Their lessons resonate today. For anyone serious about preparedness, understand your environment's fundamental challenges. In Flanders it was water, in your context it might be exposure or water scarcity. Use the right tool for the job. The clay-kicking technique wasn't superior to pick and shovel work in every situation, but in its specific application it was unmatched. Think systematically. The trench systems worked because they were designed as integrated networks, not isolated positions. And perhaps most importantly, recognize that survival often depends on the unglamorous work of drainage, sanitation and shelter maintenance, rather than dramatic heroics. These men built an empire of mud that sheltered millions, and they did it with the timeless principles of good fieldcraft: observation, adaptation, and the patient application of skill. If this deep dive into forgotten survival engineering resonates with you, subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles. Share this video with anyone who understands that the best lessons in self-reliance often come from history's hardest classrooms. The trenches of World War I hold secrets that every bushcrafter, prepper, and history enthusiast needs to understand, and we're just getting started uncovering them.